through the development of the platform. Um, there were a couple of target audiences that we were trying to develop. Um, so we had conversations, and we knew that number one, we wanted a platform that gave residents, community members access to as much resources as possible. Number two is that we realized that Brownsville as a whole did not have um, did not have a voice, and so also wanted to have a platform that could not only showcase resources and showcase support networks, but gave community an ability to kind of you know um, gave the community an ability to contextualize it through multimedia content. Um, Number three is that we looked at a lot of the community organizations that exist in Brownsville and realized that in these hard times, there wasn't actually a real portal that enabled real time support, donations to the community. And so the question was, how do we build a platform that, number one, is a resource portal for our community residents? Number two, that is a voice for our community residents. Number three, that enabled people that did not live in the community to have access to all the activities that are going on within our community, because for the most part, that kind of information only comes through the emails of CB16. Number four, then, an advocacy feature that would enable our people to petition our local community leaders. And then number five, as I stated earlier, a platform that enabled people that had disposable income to support our community. And website, so a resident, for example, may come to the website to look for resources or to listen to a podcast or read an article about people they know. But people from the outside, they would come because they're interested in supporting the community, stuff like that. And with all those intentions, to it was important then to kind of create an information architecture that enabled different kinds of users have different kinds of access onto the website. So that's just a prefix of what I was thinking through. Um, so here are the features. Welcome to Own Brownsville. Um, Okay, so here are the features of the platform. You come, you have this header that it's supposed to kind of just set the mood for welcome to Brownsville kind of stuff. And then here it gives you direct access to our Radio Brownsville podcast. Okay, back up. So based on that prefix, the next step was then to, like I said, create an information architecture, a sitemap, and a functionality kind of outline, right, that could bring all these concepts to life. So in terms of how do we give the people in Brownsville a voice, we built a framework for a robust editorial feature on the back end that was also, and this word is going to keep coming up again and again, integration, that was integrated onto third-party content distribution outlets. In this case, for our editorials, it would be Medium, but it would also then enable us. Anyways, so that's for the editorials. At the same time, we built our multimedia programming, which is the Radio Brownsville podcast, which in fact is videos. But what we did was that number one, we integrated the platform to, the Facebook live feeds. And at the same time, then our team then converted the videos into MP3 podcasts, which then is integrated onto third party content distribution outlets, including iTunes, Spotify, Obviously, this is a minor feature, but sign up with your email and your zip code, and with that, we can kind of sync you in with our CRM tool, customer relationship management tool, so that we could start to build data on the active users of the platform. Excuse me. Um, this is just an intro. Welcome to Own Brownsville kind of thing. Um, and from there, the first feature that and so for community resources, so the first thing was target audience, our community residents, and how do we create this dynamic interactive map, or at least develop a tool that had, that we could then integrate onto the Google API, and so that people could kind of just find whatever they were looking for in the quickest possible time. And so we had lots of meetings, LaShawn and I, and what's her name? The lady at CB16, help me out.
Oh, Janice.
Yeah, Janice. And we agreed on, is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Okay, yeah. So we agreed on 9 categories: food resources, housing, education, workforce development, healthcare, senior centers, children and family services, youth development, and faith-based community. Now, what does that look like? You click on any of those resources and it takes you to an interactive map where you then see all the different organizations that offer those resources within the community, and you have, their key, the key categories, the key service categories that they offer. And again, one of the things that was really important to me was enabling a tool that was dynamic, right? I want users to not just find the places, but to be able to interact with the content, because we don't read, right? We don't read, but we have a short-term attention span. And so it was kind of important to me that a user could literally go directly to whatever their interest is, right? Interact with that, right, in real time, while also then watching a video from the director of the place, right? And videos, it has the photography, but it also has like this 3D interactive thing. I just haven't had time to kind of build it out. But the point is, we wanted something that was dynamic, that was interactive, that ultimately then led the end user to not only get as much information as possible, but also take action, right? And to see community schedules, right? And so we had the mapping system integrated with all those categories so that you could find housing resources, or you could find housing resources. You could find educational resources as well, made in Brownsville, CDC, and and just interact with all the organizations and all the stuff they're doing in a dynamic way. That was the point, right? I'm gonna hold there. Oh, sorry. So on one hand, the thought process was we need to create resources for local community members, and then we need to create the same resources for organizations within the community that need help. Again, a different target audience, a different type of user, utility as well. So even though, and we'll go through that in a second. So you also have support for local businesses and nonprofits. And then all these other features, in my view, I would call them second tier, but heavy labor, if you will, right? So we wanted to highlight the elected officials as well as the stakeholders that were responsible for making this platform happen. Now, instead of just having something, and I got to be honest with you, man, every single time when I like section for research and reports, so that as reports come out from our local community partners, that there would be, because right now that doesn't exist, there would be a one-stop, research and report portal for people to engage with all the information that are coming out,
Oh,
particularly
DP, this is not for publishing yet. This is
sections of the website, I guess. And if I'm boring you, or if there are any specific questions, the section cover video as well. Hello and welcome. Then from there, we have the Find COVID. So this page is dedicated to the local community, right? So we wanted to highlight community COVID testing resources so they could find testing sites, and then community employment resources for folks that are looking for jobs. And I will show you what our jobs portal looks like, because that was an entirely different project in and of itself that we're still building out. But I'm really excited to show that to you as well. So that's what we feature right there on the community page. And then again, long form for each of those categories that I showed you. Initially, we planned on having some explainer video, some documentary type piece for each of the categories that we listed: food resources, healthcare, etc. That essentially spoke to the impact of this moment on our community within the context of each of these categories, right? And that's where we are with it. So again, this is like the long form section of the community resources, where we could contextualize our efforts. And when you click on it, it takes you again to the interactive map, where you could see all the individual organizations and and the calls to action. Boom. Business and nonprofits. We had a slight deviation for this category because and we had a lot of really interesting meetings with Jesse, particularly with Pitkin Bid, right, about ensuring that there wasn't too much overlap between some of the resources they offer and some of the things they're doing. What do I mean by that? Again, on this end, keep in mind in the community section, our calls to action are features on these sides where on these sections where COVID-19 testing and find jobs, right? Because we were speaking directly to a target audience, our local residents. Here, we're speaking to our local businesses. And so we wanted them, we changed the language. This page was designed specifically to give them as many resources within our local community as possible. Number one, local professionals for hire. So and I'm going to show you the jobs portal. So while we create a robust content marketing strategy that drives our local residents, young people, to submit their resume, think LinkedIn or Indeed actually is more what it looks like. I'll show you. At the same time, we wanted to encourage local business owners to find first, labor and hires within the community. And so local business would click on find available candidates, and they would see all the available candidates, and they could, filter it by their field and blah, blah, blah. At the same time, we have a strong connection with the Made in Brownsville group. Last year, we built Brownsville first ever, and I'm really excited and proud that I was a part of that. We built a freelance platform for young people where sorry, I shouldn't have left. So we built a freelance portal for alumni of Made in Brownsville. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Made in Brownsville and what they do, correct, sir?
No, he's not.
No,
No, he isn't.
no, I'm not.
Okay, so LaShawn, do you mind?
No, I don't mind. So, and actually this young man that's featured here, D'Angelo, he works part-time. He's an alumni, and he also works part-time for the nonprofit organization. They actually just rebranded, and they're now called the Youth Design Center. But essentially they are an organization that provides opportunities, internships for young people in the community to learn about, how to do graphics, media, technology, things like that. It's headed up by a wonderful young man, Quardine Lewis Allen. And so, yeah, he's located on Belmont Avenue. So we work very closely with the organization. They were actually one of the 4 partners connected with the Mobility Labs. And so the young man, you know, as I said, he's an alumni. He also works part-time for them, and he works part-time for CBEDC in our after-school program, teaching media arts to the in the after-school program.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So that
was number one, if you're a small business and you're looking for labor hires, find it through our jobs portal. If you're looking for creative services within our community, find it at one of our partner agencies made in Brownsville, right? Intro video, just setting the tone. These are aesthetics, but again, high labor stuff. Now, here's the difference, right? Instead of having, and I got this questions a lot, people kept on asking, is this a place where we feature small businesses in Brownsville? And the answer is no, right? What we want to offer is resources for small businesses. And so the only organizations that will be featured on this interactive portal would be the organizations that offer these specific services to organizations in our community: financial assistance, legal assistance, planning a business, available storefronts, certifications, and market analysis research. And then at the same time, we also wanted to elevate our core, and LaShawn, I'm still waiting for your image. We also wanted to elevate our core partners, right? So CBED, unlike research for the community, and that's kind of how I have it in my head. When you're on the business section, you would see research specific to businesses in Brownsville.
ultimately,
I've been in Glenmore, for example, and a young person would complain that, you know, there is no resource, there is no organization that is dedicated to elevating their interest and making them into entrepreneurs or all these things. Like, and so I can't emphasize how important multimedia and editorials are to bringing this website to life. You know what I mean? Not to mention, one thing that bothers me when Busayo and I purchased a house here, like, this is the first thing I did. This has to change, right? Like, this has to change. And so this platform also created an opportunity, right? Because if we could create dynamic, engaging, emotional content with emotional impact and feed it with a robust content marketing strategy, not just social media strategy, a content marketing strategy. And
so,
then
so DP, would you go? I agree with you. When you Google Brownsville, this is the set of questions that pops up. So I think, you know, I appreciate that. LaShawn, I think you and I need to take a snapshot of this.
It's being recorded. It's recorded.
And we all, you know, aside from this, you know, I mean, yes, I agree that any.
And then, and I show you next. I think I'll show this last. And then I mentioned the jobs portal initially. Here's what it looks like. So you find the jobs portal through the menu tab, and I'm still trying to sort out. Well, it's constantly changing. So you go to join us, and you have the key menu. And if you're looking for a job or if you're looking to hire recruiters, it's here available for you. You end up here in our landing page, click get started. And it asks you to log in if you're an employer or if, yeah. It asks you to either log in or register. You can log in as a candidate, or sorry, yeah, you could sign up as a candidate, or you could sign up as an employer, and and there's a jobs listing. There's several features, and like I said, this is like a whole different project. But what I'm really going for is really just the um, Indeed functionality, where um, where employers and employees can go find jobs or candidates. And just like Indeed, right? You could just put your name there and you would get email alerts on recent events. So, again, usability, a young person from Glenmore that is looking for a job, they would go to the job listing portal, they could upload their resume, or they could just search for gigs. They could also email the employer as well. Each job has, salary offering, the career level, et cetera, et cetera. So I was really looking for something clean, and I really like inspiration for this. Like I said, was Indeed. So
Concept of our strategies at Central Brooklyn is to, again, spark that local hiring and make sure that there's, a much higher engagement with especially the anchor employers like the hospitals, the schools like you mentioned. But we have large institutions that have lots of jobs at various levels, and so the point is really to make sure that I'm working directly with those HR directors, which I'm in the process of building those relationships, to make sure that their links or what have you. And you're right, it can easily be just linked to their site, but that it's all in one space, right? And that the HR folks understand that through this site, this local site, this is the space that they can go and advertise their jobs and also look for candidates.
but the idea, we've actually had to change the event section a few times. But the idea was to have a portal where two things, one thing. The idea was to have a portal where folks could go and submit their events, so that the community would just know what's going on and participate. It's really that straightforward, right?
Uh-huh.
And so the platform is not just an event section, but there's also the ability for the end user on the platform, using our Join Us portal to, sorry, I'm going to just minimize this. Using our Join Us portal to submit their upcoming events. Oh, so that's the event section, and the reason why I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, DP. I have one feature that I want to make sure that Herman that is clear, that doesn't exist right now in the community, that organizations can input, like literally, on the back end, their events, right? Because right now we are, overbooking, double booking, and not really supporting each other in a way. And so this will provide that opportunity for people to see what's already happening and then also add their event. So it's, very, very clear.
And so they could better plan because they would know, they would be able to see a community calendar.
Yes.
Okay.
Not to mention, we would help them also promote their events.
Okay.
Right.
Sounds good. Okay.
Okay, so great. So the reason why I brought the Join Our Community sections that enable you, to register and sign in with limited access. And with that limited access, number one, you could submit your upcoming events and it's saved in draft form, and we review it and choose whether or not to submit it. Number two is you could list, out your organization so that you end up in our interactive mapping system.